Imagine being a young orphan who has lost everything and has no one left to call family. A boy with no hope of a future suddenly encounters a mysterious dark knight, an encounter that will completely change his destiny. From that moment, he begins a journey that will eventually lead him to becoming the next Dark King. But as his story unfolds, a shocking truth about the world itself begins to reveal itself. This world is divided into two completely different realms. The first is the Kingdom of Light, a kingdom that floats high above the clouds. This celestial land is ruled by a queen who carries the responsibility of protecting her people. The second is the Black Kingdom, a harsh and lifeless land below. This realm is controlled by the King of Darkness. The story begins with the Queen of Light standing against the forces of darkness. With determination in her heart, she swears to protect the Progenitor Rune, a powerful relic, no matter what happens. Meanwhile, on the barren lands below, we meet a young man living in a small village. Since he has no known name, we will simply call him Black. Black is an ordinary villager who spends his days working hard and helping his community. One morning, he leaves his small home and talks with the other villagers, preparing to begin another normal day. However, that peaceful life is suddenly destroyed. One of the villagers arrives with terrifying news. Monsters are approaching the village. Realizing the danger, the adults quickly make a decision. They entrust Black with protecting the children and order him to take them to safety on top of a nearby hill while they stay behind to fight the incoming creatures. But things quickly go wrong. While Black is leading the children away, they are suddenly attacked by a terrifying monster resembling a giant centipede. Black immediately tries to defend them, but his sword is useless against the creature's incredibly hard body. The monster shows no mercy, attacking the children one after another. In the middle of the chaos, Black manages to save one child, but his victory is short-lived. The child eventually dies after being poisoned by the monster. When Black finally returns to the village, he discovers a nightmare. The entire village has been destroyed, and everyone he knew has fallen during the attack. With nothing left behind, Black spends his days giving his fallen villagers a proper burial. Several days later, a mysterious warrior wearing impressive armor arrives at the destroyed village. His name is Skiers. After seeing Black, Skiers asks if there is another village nearby. Sadly, Black explains that there used to be one, but it was completely destroyed by the monsters. Skiers does not say much about the tragedy. Instead, he asks Black what he is doing there. Black explains that he is digging graves for everyone who died. However, after spending so much time working without rest, exhaustion finally overwhelms him and he collapses onto the ground. Seeing his condition, Skiers tells him to stop and eat something. Black refuses, saying he does not have time to rest. But Skiers simply takes out some bread and hands it to him. Without hesitation, Black accepts it and begins eating. As they talk, Black reveals his beliefs. He believes that both the Kingdom of Light and the Kingdom of Darkness are part of the same world, and that both sides are necessary to maintain balance. Skiers does not completely understand his way of thinking. Black then reveals his greatest wish. He wants everyone in the world to be able to live happily. However, Skiers tells him that dreams like that require power. Without strength, he will not be able to protect anything. With those words, the armored warrior gives Black a sword and promises to teach him how to use it. Their training begins. As expected, Skiers easily defeats Black during their first battle. But Black refuses to give up. He immediately gets back up and continues fighting, explaining that he wants to change the world and protect innocent people. After hearing his determination, Skiers tells him something important. If Black truly wants to change things, then he should aim to become the ruler of the Black Kingdom. During their battle, it is revealed that Skiers once had the same dream. He also wanted to become the Dark King, but he was defeated before achieving that goal. The duel continues, with their swords constantly clashing. Eventually, Black manages to disarm Skiers. But suddenly, the warrior collapses. Skiers reveals that he is already dying. His previous battle against the current Dark King left him with severe injuries that he could never recover from. With his final moments approaching, Skiers entrusts Black with his own sword. He orders him to travel to the capital of the Black Kingdom and find a man named Bruce. Then, he gives him a strange message to deliver. The exact words confuse Black, but Skiers insists that Bruce will understand and help him. Accepting the mission, Black begins his journey toward the capital of the Black Kingdom. His goal is clear. He will become the next Dark King. Meanwhile, In the Kingdom of Light, Queen Iris is seen fighting against a massive army of dark creatures. During the battle, Iris uses the power of the Progenitor Rune. This artifact serves as an endless source of energy, allowing her to defeat the monsters attacking her kingdom. However, her victory does not last long. Almost immediately, the creatures begin appearing again, making it clear that the battle against darkness is far from over. Fortunately, Iris does not have to fight alone. Faz, the commander of her army, arrives just in time to support her. Together, they manage to push back the forces of darkness. But after the battle ends, Iris is left deep in thought. The endless conflict with the Black Kingdom continues draining their resources, and she begins to worry about how much longer they can continue fighting. Meanwhile, Black finally arrives at the capital of the Black Kingdom after searching for a long time. Eventually, he finds Barus. At first, Barus assumes that Black simply stole Skars' sword. But when Black delivers the strange message Skars gave him, Barus immediately understands its meaning. Recognizing the code, Barus realizes that Black is the person Skars was waiting for. Because of this, he pledges his loyalty to Black. That same night, the Kingdom of Light faces another attack. A powerful winged monster named Baal appears, covered in incredibly strong armor. Without hesitation, Queen Iris confronts the creature, and their battle causes massive destruction throughout the capital. During the fight, Alantia, the leader of the elves, enters the battlefield to help. However, despite giving everything he has, Alantia quickly realizes that Baal's strength is far beyond what he expected. Unable to defeat the monster alone, he calls for additional assistance. At that moment, Queen Iris arrives and prepares to face Baal herself. Meanwhile, on another battlefield, Faz encounters a group of soldiers from the Dark Army. Surprisingly, they do not appear interested in fighting. Instead, they explain that they are simply peasants who were forced into the war because of the conflict between the two kingdoms. Faz originally plans to spare them. However, the soldiers suddenly attack him. This reveals something important. The soldiers of the Dark Army are completely controlled by the Dark King. His followers cannot disobey his orders, even if they do not truly wish to fight. Despite the unexpected attack, Faz easily defeats them. Meanwhile, Iris continues battling Baal. Even while using her full strength, she realizes that she is still unable to overpower the monster. Feeling desperate, Iris considers drawing even more power from the Progenitor Rune. But at the last moment, she stops herself. She fears that forcing too much power from the rune could destabilize it and cause a catastrophe. Recognizing that Iris has reached her limit, Baal decides to end the battle and withdraw. After the fight, the soldiers of the Kingdom of Light focus on helping the wounded citizens and recovering from the destruction. Iris remains behind, thinking carefully about everything that happened. At the same time, Barus is speaking with the current Dark King. The Dark King orders Barus to prepare a squad that will attack the Kingdom of Light. Barus expresses concern about the risks involved, but the king refuses to change his mind. His only desire is for darkness to eventually cover the entire world. Before beginning the attack, however, the Dark King orders Barus to create a strategy to deal with Baal, since the monster has become a threat to both kingdoms. Soon afterward, Barus returns to Black. When Black asks where he has been, Barus explains that he was meeting with the Dark King. He tells Black that his role is to obey the king's commands, while also serving the future successor to the throne. From that moment, Barus begins teaching Black everything he needs to know to become a worthy ruler. Under Barus's guidance, Black studies many different subjects required of a future king, including history, leadership, and swordsmanship. Weeks pass as Black continues training and improving himself. Eventually, he manages to defeat Barus in a fencing match. Impressed by his progress, Barus congratulates him. He then gives Black a special set of armor, a privilege reserved only for those recognized as successors to the throne. Elsewhere in the Dark Kingdom, we are introduced to a young girl named Groza, who is also a potential successor to the Black King's throne. While traveling through the kingdom with her escorts, they are suddenly ambushed by several dangerous creatures. However, Groza quickly demonstrates her incredible abilities. Using her powerful skills, she defeats most of the monsters with ease. But before the battle is completely over, one remaining beast survives and launches a surprise attack from behind. At the last moment, Black steps in and cuts down the creature, saving Groza from danger. After being rescued, Groza thanks Black for his help and becomes curious about his true identity. When she asks who he really is, Black reveals that he is one of the successors chosen to compete for the Dark King's throne. Interested in learning more about him, Groza invites Black to a nearby bar where they can talk. During their conversation, she reveals her plan to hold a competition between the successors. Groza explains that if Black manages to become the strongest successor, he will be awarded the Great Black Sword. This legendary weapon would serve as proof that he is the rightful Dark Prince and the true successor to the Dark King. Black accepts the challenge and agrees to participate in the competition. However, neither of them notices that a red-haired man named Adele has been secretly listening to their entire conversation. Meanwhile, in the White Kingdom, Iris continues to reflect on her recent battle. Her thoughts return to the time before she became queen, when she and her sister Shima were both candidates to inherit the throne. Despite competing for the same position, the sisters never allowed jealousy or resentment to come between them. They had promised each other that no matter who was chosen, they would accept the decision without holding any hatred toward one another. One day, the queen summoned Iris and Shima for an evaluation to determine who was more suitable to become the next ruler. However, even after their evaluation, the queen did not make her final decision. Later, Shima spoke about the enormous responsibilities that came with becoming queen and the heavy burden that the position carried. Afterward, Shima invited Iris to dinner and mentioned that their friend Faiz was eager to see her again. Iris accepted the invitation, saying that she was also looking forward to meeting Faiz since it had been a long time since they last saw each other. That night, after dinner, Faiz walked Iris home. During their journey, Iris asked him if he believed she was truly capable of becoming queen. In response, Faiz admitted that he did not have a definite answer. However, he promised that regardless of who became the sovereign, he would continue to serve faithfully as their sword. Even after hearing his words, Iris still carried doubts about herself. Suddenly, a dark entity appeared before her. With no guards nearby to assist her, Iris was forced to call upon the power of the progenitor rune. Using this power, Iris successfully defeated the creature of darkness. This victory strengthened her confidence and proved that she had the ability to protect the kingdom. Then, something unexpected happened. The progenitor rune communicated with Iris and declared her as the destined successor to the throne. After receiving this revelation, Iris made a vow to herself. She would become an excellent queen and fulfill every duty placed upon her, no matter what sacrifices she had to make. Returning to the present day, Black prepares for the upcoming successor competition in the Dark Kingdom. Before leaving, he asks Valis if he will be attending the tournament. However, Valis declines, explaining that he must continue carrying out the Dark King's orders. Even so, he expresses his confidence that Black will achieve victory. After thanking Valis, Black leaves and heads toward the tournament. Soon, Black arrives at a massive coliseum where he will compete against the other potential successors for the throne. Once inside the arena, Groza explains the rules of the competition. The contestants must defeat as many evil creatures as possible and remain standing in order to advance to the next round. She then reveals that the winner will receive the legendary sword. The tournament begins, and the young successors are immediately faced with a series of savage beasts. Most of the competitors defeat their opponents without much difficulty. To increase the challenge, the organizers release a powerful Cyclops onto the battlefield. The massive creature quickly overwhelms many of the contestants, defeating them one after another. However, Black refuses to be defeated. Using every technique and skill that Valis taught him, Black fights against the Cyclops and successfully defeats the powerful beast. With the Cyclops defeated, the first round of the tournament comes to an end, and Black proves that he is a serious contender for the Dark King's throne. The only competitors left standing are Black and Adele, the red-haired man who had been secretly listening to Groza and Black's conversation earlier. It is then revealed that Adele is also one of the candidates competing for the Dark King's throne. Before their final battle begins, the two finalists are given a short break. During this time, they speak with each other about their beliefs and ideals. Adele criticizes Black for helping another competitor during the first round of the tournament. He sees this act of kindness as a weakness, believing that a future Dark King must be ruthless and willing to eliminate anyone who stands in their way. However, Black disagrees with Adele's way of thinking. He believes that a true ruler should protect others, even if it means putting themselves at risk. To Black, saving lives is far more important than simply gaining power. With their opposing beliefs made clear, the two successors prepare for their final battle to determine the winner of the tournament. After a fierce and intense fight, Black uses everything he has learned and manages to defeat Adele. As he corners his opponent and prepares to end the battle, Black suddenly stops. Confused by his actions, Adele asks why he refuses to deliver the final blow. Black explains that killing his opponents goes against everything he believes in. He does not want to become a ruler who gains power through unnecessary destruction. Hearing Black's answer, Adele accepts his defeat and acknowledges him as the winner. After the battle concludes, Groza announces that Black is the rightful Dark Prince and the primary successor to the Dark King's throne. Following the victory ceremony, Black receives his reward, the legendary Black Sword. Later, Valles meets with Black and congratulates him on his tournament victory. However, he soon reveals that there is an important mission waiting for him, one that can only be carried out by the Dark Prince. Valles orders Black to deliver a message to the Queen of Light. Black accepts the mission, but he will not be traveling alone. Adele, the second strongest candidate for the throne, is chosen to accompany him on this journey. The following day, Black and Adele depart for the Kingdom of Light aboard a magical ship. After traveling for several hours, they finally arrive at their destination. Upon reaching the kingdom, they are immediately confronted by Fies. The general reacts with hostility toward the two envoys from the Dark Kingdom, but Adele quickly uses his calm attitude and diplomatic skills to prevent the situation from escalating. Once things settle down, Adele explains that they have an important message from the Dark King that must be delivered directly to the princess. Although Fies remains suspicious of their intentions, he eventually agrees to escort them to the palace. A short time later, Black and Iris meet for the first time. The Queen of Light and the Dark King's representatives begin discussing the contents of the letter they have brought. Inside, the Dark King proposes forming an alliance with Iris in order to defeat the powerful enemy known as Baal. However, Iris hesitates to accept the offer. She knows that the Dark King has a cruel and tyrannical reputation, making her question whether trusting him is the right decision. Because of this, Iris asks Black and Adele for time to consider the proposal. As a result, the two envoys remain in the Kingdom of Light while they wait for her answer. The following day, Black and Adele meet with Iris once again at the palace. The Queen asks Black for his thoughts on the proposed alliance. Black admits that although the Dark King's actions have been cruel, joining forces could benefit both kingdoms. By working together, they could prevent countless innocent lives from being lost. After hearing Black's perspective, Iris begins to reconsider her doubts. In the end, she decides to accept the alliance. With this decision, the Kingdom of Light and the Kingdom of Darkness put aside their differences and unite against a common enemy, the monstrous Baal. The following day, the ruler of the Kingdom of Light sets out for the Kingdom of Darkness to officially strengthen the newly formed alliance with the Dark King. Meanwhile, within the Dark Kingdom, the army begins preparing for the upcoming battle. As expected, Valles and Groza take command of the forces, leading the soldiers as they prepare for the arrival of their enemy. However, before they can make their move, Baal suddenly appears and brings chaos and destruction to the battlefield. The Dark Army immediately engages the powerful beast, fighting with everything they have. But despite their courage and determination, their attacks prove useless against Baal's overwhelming strength. One by one, the soldiers are defeated until only two warriors remain standing, Valles and Groza. The two become the final barrier protecting the Dark Kingdom. Together, they desperately fight against Baal, but the battle quickly turns hopeless. Baal's power is far beyond anything they expected, and as Valles and Groza are pushed to their limits, their lives are placed in serious danger. Just when it seems there is no hope left, the Dark King arrives and saves his two remaining warriors. Standing face to face with Baal, the Dark King prepares to fight the beast himself. Before their battle begins, the two exchange a few words, and then the intense clash begins. The battle becomes a fierce struggle between two incredibly powerful beings. However, despite the Dark King's immense strength, he is unable to deal any significant damage to Baal. The beast remains completely unfazed and even mocks the Dark King's efforts, making the situation appear almost impossible to overcome. But just as the battle reaches its darkest moment, Iris, the Queen of Light, arrives to assist the Dark King. Her first move is to use her power to restrain Baal, catching the beast off guard. Baal struggles to understand what is happening, unable to comprehend the unlikely alliance between the Queen of Light and the Dark King. With both rulers working together, they combine their abilities to trap Baal inside a volcano. Their plan succeeds, and the monstrous beast is finally defeated. After the battle ends, Iris does not exchange any words with the Dark King. Instead, she simply gives him a meaningful look before leaving the battlefield. Following the intense confrontation, Iris returns to her palace completely exhausted. As soon as she arrives, her strength gives out and she collapses into Black's arms. Even in her weakened state, she manages to tell him that they have fulfilled their agreement before losing consciousness. The battle had forced Iris to use a large portion of the progenitor rune's power, leaving her completely drained. While Iris rests, Shima arrives and begins healing the queen using her own healing abilities. A few hours later, Black meets with Adele in the palace's guest room. During their conversation, Adele reveals that he has developed an interest in Shima. He also shares his suspicion that Black may have feelings for Iris. Black's reaction to Adele's comment immediately catches his attention, seemingly confirming Adele's guess. Later that night, General Face informs Black and Adele that Baal has been defeated. After hearing the news, Adele explains that if Baal is truly gone, they should return to the Dark Kingdom. The following day, back in the Kingdom of Darkness, Valis gives Groza a new mission, delivering another message to the Queen of Light. At first, Groza is hesitant to accept the task. However, when she realizes this gives her an opportunity to see Black again, she quickly changes her mind. She boards the magical flying ship and begins her journey toward the Kingdom of Light. After traveling for a long time, Groza finally arrives at Iris's kingdom. Upon reaching the palace, she is immediately escorted inside, where she delivers the Dark King's message to Queen Iris. After reading the letter, Iris is surprised to learn that the Dark King wishes to continue their alliance until the main city of the Dark Kingdom has been completely restored. After considering the proposal, Iris agrees and orders her advisor to prepare an official response. While waiting, Iris takes Black and his companions on a tour of the palace. Under her guidance, they explore the many rooms and corridors throughout the castle. During their journey, they encounter Teo, the younger brother of General Face. The group discovers that Teo possesses healing abilities when they witness him using his powers to heal several small blue creatures. Seeing this peaceful interaction between the two kingdoms, the women decide to exchange outfits as a symbol of friendship and unity. Because the clothing styles of the Light and Dark Kingdoms are completely different, the exchange represents the bond forming between the two sides. Adele and Face are the first to trade outfits with Shima and Groza, and soon the others follow their example. Then, Adele suddenly asks Black which of the two women he thinks looks better. Caught completely off guard by the question, Black struggles to answer. Eventually, he gives a diplomatic response and says that both of them look good. Hearing Black's careful answer, Groza becomes delighted by his response. Later that same night, Queen Iris invites Black and his companions to join her for dinner. During the meal, the group from the Dark Kingdom combines their traditional ingredients with those from the Kingdom of Light, creating a unique and delicious feast. Everyone enjoys the peaceful evening together before eventually parting ways. Before they leave, Queen Iris invites Black and his companions to join her for a picnic the following day, where they will gather wild vegetables from the forest. As expected, Black and the others happily accept the invitation. Later that night, Black and Groza find a moment to speak privately. During their conversation, Groza reassures Black that she will always remain by his side and support him in everything he does. However, Black simply responds with a casual, "Thank you," choosing not to acknowledge the deeper meaning behind her words. The next day, both groups prepare for another outing. This time, they head into the forest to collect wild vegetables. Before the activity begins, Adele suggests making things more interesting by turning it into a friendly competition. He proposes that everyone form pairs, and the team that gathers the most vegetables will be declared the winner. Groza immediately becomes excited by the idea, seeing it as an opportunity to spend more time with Black. Fias also becomes interested in the competition, hoping that he can be paired with Queen Iris. Before everyone begins searching, Iris offers some advice on how to properly identify and collect the vegetables. After seeing how knowledgeable she is about the forest, the group decides that the queen should not participate in the competition. With that, the vegetable gathering contest begins. Black ends up teaming up with young Teo, but their lack of knowledge about plants quickly becomes obvious. Eventually, the two are forced to ask Iris for guidance. As a result, Iris joins Black's team, allowing the two of them to spend more time together during the activity. While watching them, Fias and Groza cannot hide their jealousy, feeling envious of the time Black and Iris are sharing. Despite this, Black and Teo's team ultimately wins the competition by collecting the most vegetables. After gathering everything they need, Iris takes responsibility for preparing lunch using the ingredients they collected. While she cooks, everyone else helps by gathering firewood and cleaning the vegetables. However, while Iris is washing the vegetables, Black accidentally splashes water onto her. The water soaks through Iris's clothes, causing them to cling to her body. Black immediately becomes embarrassed and blushes, while Iris has a similar reaction. The awkward moment reveals something that has become increasingly obvious. Both Black and Iris appear to have feelings for each other. Afterward, the two retreat to a more private area to dry their clothes and spend some time away from the others. When they eventually return wearing dry clothes, Groza cannot hide her frustration after seeing them together. Despite the awkward situation, everyone works together to finish preparing lunch. Soon, the group sits down and enjoys the meal they created together. For a brief moment, both kingdoms experience true peace and happiness. Unfortunately, that peaceful atmosphere does not last. The very next day, the Dark King orders Black and his companions to immediately return to the Dark Kingdom. Before they depart, Iris gives Adele a letter containing a proposal for establishing free trade between the two kingdoms. Adele agrees to deliver the message to the Dark King, but his attitude suddenly changes. He explains that the Dark Kingdom suffers from a lack of sunlight because of Iris's realm, leaving parts of the land barren. Iris responds that this is simply the natural balance of the world. Suddenly, the Dark King takes control of Adele's body. Adele transforms into a demon and immediately attacks the queen. Without hesitation, Black reacts and draws his sword. To protect Iris, he is forced to strike down his own companion. Black's quick and deadly action leaves Iris completely shocked. The sudden violence causes those around them to view Black as a threat, and he is immediately captured and imprisoned. Because of this incident, the alliance between the Kingdom of Light and the Dark Kingdom collapses. Groza is forced to flee the Kingdom of Light, while Faiz is left deeply troubled by what happened. He had hoped that the two kingdoms could finally coexist peacefully, but now the possibility of war seems unavoidable. Meanwhile, Iris visits the room where the progenitor rune resides, seeking guidance about the situation. The rune responds by surrounding Iris in a brilliant flash of light. At the same time, Black regains consciousness inside a prison cell. As he reflects on everything that happened, he realizes that he acted purely on instinct. The moment he saw Iris's life in danger, he reacted without hesitation and killed his own comrade to save her. Now trapped in prison, Black spends his time thinking about the consequences of his actions. A few minutes later, Iris appears in the dungeon, but she is transformed into a white cat. Using her magic, she unlocks Black's cell and quietly helps him escape. Together, the two begin making their way toward the exit. Eventually, Black and Iris reach the edge of a cliff, where Black discovers his two swords waiting for him. Unexpectedly, the white cat beside him transforms back into Iris. At first, Black is completely surprised by her transformation. However, after remembering that he lives in a world filled with magic and impossible events, his shock quickly fades away. The two of them then join hands, creating a symbolic moment that represents the connection between the light and dark kingdoms. Unfortunately, their peaceful reunion does not last long. Suddenly, soldiers from the Kingdom of Light arrive with orders to arrest Black. Without hesitation, Iris tells him to escape. After sharing one final embrace, Black retrieves his swords and flees on a ship that arrives just in time to take him away. He eventually returns to the Dark Kingdom, leaving Iris behind. Back in her own kingdom, Iris cannot stop thinking about Black. Not long afterward, the Kingdom of Light comes under attack by a group of dark creatures, seemingly sent by the Dark King. Realizing the danger, Iris orders her advisor to gather the kingdom's warriors and prepare for battle. During this time, Face requests permission to temporarily leave his position as a general. He explains that he intends to search for medicine to restore Iris's health because he believes the queen's condition is worsening. However, Iris assures him that she will recover and reminds him that his role in protecting the kingdom is extremely important. Despite her words, Feist decides to ignore her request and follows his own path. He leaves the kingdom in search of help from Elantra, the Elf King. Inside the library, Feist explains his concerns about Iris's condition. Elantra reveals that there may be a way to restore her strength. He tells Phase about a mysterious substance known as the Soul, which can be found deep inside a remote cave. According to Elantra, this special element has the ability to restore a person's magical energy. If they can bring the soul back to Iris, she will be completely healed. With this information, Fies and Elantra leave the capital of the Kingdom of Light and begin their journey toward the hidden cave. Meanwhile, after saying goodbye to Iris, Black becomes more determined than ever to see her again. Because of this promise, he begins training harder than before. He continues his intense training sessions with Valis, pushing himself to become stronger. While Black is training, Groza arrives and informs him that the Dark King has ordered them to defeat several creatures outside the capital. However, Valis suspects that this mission is simply a way to keep Black occupied. Soon after, Valis meets with the Dark King and reports that all the troops are prepared to march toward the Kingdom of Light. But Black remains completely unaware of the Dark King's true intentions. After leaving the capital, Black encounters several dangerous beasts and defeats them with Groza's assistance. Shortly afterward, he notices a ship from the Dark Kingdom traveling toward the Kingdom of Light. Suddenly, the ship is attacked by a group of flying creatures. Black quickly fights back and manages to defend himself, but Groza is caught off guard. She loses her balance and falls from the cliff. Seeing her in danger, Black immediately rushes to save her. However, both of them end up trapped on the edge of the cliff. To make matters worse, a terrifying demon appears before them. With danger approaching, Black does not hesitate. He charges forward and begins a fierce battle against the powerful beast, once again proving his courage and determination. Meanwhile, Iris shows that she possesses the same determination as she prepares to defend her kingdom from the Dark King's invasion. Facing the approaching army of darkness, Iris chooses to confront them directly. She is not alone, however. Shima and the magical warriors stand beside her, ready to fight and protect their homeland. As the battle between the two kingdoms begins, Fies and Elantra continue their mission. The two travel deep into a mysterious and dangerous cave in search of the healing soul. After a long and difficult journey through the endless depths of the cave, their efforts finally pay off. They discover the radiant drops containing the healing power needed to save Iris. With the precious medicine secured, Fies and Elantra begin their journey back to the capital. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Iris continues fighting against the Dark Kingdom's forces. Despite her incredible strength and skill, the overwhelming number of enemies begins pushing her to her limits. She defeats one enemy after another, but more soldiers continue to appear. Eventually, exhaustion begins to take over. Before collapsing, Iris uses the last of her strength to create a powerful magical barrier that surrounds and protects the city. However, the effort completely drains her energy, causing her to fall unconscious. At the same time, Black continues fighting his own battle against a powerful beast resembling a minotaur. The battle is fierce and chaotic, but Black's skills allow him to overcome the monster. When the dust settles, Black stands victorious. After their victory, Groza suggests celebrating with a special dinner. Black accepts her invitation, and the two sit together peacefully. During the meal, Black reflects on the promise he made to Iris. He declares that keeping that promise is his highest priority. However, Groza is clearly unhappy with his words. She reminds Black that he is the Prince of Darkness and that he also has responsibilities toward his own kingdom and its future. Despite her disappointment, Groza assures Black that she will continue supporting him and help him achieve his goals. Then, in a moment of honesty, Groza finally reveals her feelings for Black. However, Black remains silent. Seeing his reaction, Groza asks if the reason he cannot answer is because he has feelings for Iris. Without saying anything, Black simply nods. His response confirms her suspicions. Heartbroken, Groza quickly leaves, but as she walks away, she makes a decision. No matter what happens, she will continue standing beside Black. She wants to witness his journey and see him eventually rise as the next Dark King. Even in the middle of all these events, Groza stands out as a real baddie, capturing the attention of those around her with a body that would make anybody want to leave kids in her. Back in the Kingdom of Light, Fies arrives at the palace as quickly as possible. Without wasting any time, he delivers the shining drops to Shima, who immediately uses her healing abilities to restore Iris's condition. Shima performs a short but powerful ritual, and the effects are instant. Iris's strength returns, allowing her to stand once again and continue protecting her kingdom. Grateful for everything Fies has done, Iris thanks him for his efforts. With her determination renewed, she sets her next goal, defeating the Dark Army and finding a way to reunite with Black. Meanwhile, in the Dark Kingdom, Black watches as a massive fleet of ships begins sailing toward the Kingdom of Light. Back in Iris's kingdom, the battle begins once again. As Iris, Phais, and Shima lower the protective barrier surrounding the city, they prepare themselves for the incoming invasion. The warriors of the Light Kingdom stand together, ready to defend their homeland against the overwhelming forces of darkness. The conflict grows even more intense when the Dark King himself arrives on the battlefield. After exchanging a few words with Iris, the two rulers prepare to face each other directly, beginning a battle that will decide the fate of both kingdoms. At the same time, Phais encounters Valis on the battlefield. Recognizing Phais as a powerful opponent, Valis decides to fight him personally, leading to a fierce clash between the two commanders. Meanwhile, the battle between Iris and the Dark King reaches its peak. The Dark King fights with the goal of defeating Iris and taking control of the entire world, believing that his rule will create the perfect future. However, Iris refuses to allow that to happen. She fights to preserve the balance of the world and protect the natural order. Despite combining her strength with Shima and the magical warriors, Iris begins to lose ground against the overwhelming power of the Dark King. Realizing that she may not be able to win, Iris makes a desperate decision. She chooses to sacrifice herself and use the full power of the Progenitor Rune. Her plan is to unleash the rune's ultimate ability, destroying both kingdoms and eliminating everything involved in the conflict in order to restore balance to the world. Meanwhile, back in the Dark Kingdom, Black secretly enters the royal palace. There, he unexpectedly encounters Adele. At first, Black is shocked to see him alive, but he quickly accepts the situation, remembering the magical world they live in. However, before he can understand what is happening, Adele transforms into a massive beast and attacks him. A fierce battle begins between the former allies. After a brutal struggle, Black manages to defeat Adele. With his final moments, Adele reveals the truth: the Dark King is attacking the Kingdom of Light. Realizing Iris is in danger, Black immediately decides to return to her side. He searches for a ship that can take him to the Kingdom of Light, but several soldiers attempt to stop him along the way. Before they can capture him, Groza appears and helps Black overpower the soldiers. Eventually, Black reaches the harbor only to discover that there are no ships available. But suddenly, a mysterious light begins radiating from his body. Then, something unexpected happens. Dark wings emerge from Black's back. Without hesitation, Black takes flight and heads directly toward the Kingdom of Light. Meanwhile, Iris begins the final ritual with the Progenitor Rune. She releases its full power, preparing to erase everything in its path: the buildings, the people, and even the Dark King himself. As Black races toward the palace, he encounters countless dark soldiers blocking his way. However, he effortlessly defeats them and continues forward. But just as he reaches the palace, Iris completes the ritual. The Progenitor Rune begins its destructive process, spreading across the kingdom. Black desperately reaches out his hand toward Iris, trying to stop her and save her. But he is too late. The Kingdom of Light begins to collapse, and Iris's fate is sealed. In that moment, Iris realizes the painful truth: perhaps her story was never meant to have a happy ending. Meanwhile, the Dark King watches the destruction unfold, believing that he has achieved victory. But suddenly, Black appears before him. The Prince of Darkness uses his sword and pierces the Dark King. Remembering Iris's final wish that they would fall together, Black fulfills her desire. Not as an act of revenge, but as a promise he refuses to break. And so, the two rulers disappear into silence, bringing an end to the tragic conflict between light and darkness. Yet, unexpectedly, Black is reborn on a distant island far away from the battlefield. There, he finds Iris once again. However, she has returned in the form of a small white cat. Together, they begin a new chapter, a quiet and simple life away from war, but one filled with hope and meaning. In the final scene, Phais travels through the vastness of space, still haunted by one question: why didn't Queen Iris wait for him? His sadness slowly transforms into anger, and that anger begins turning into something much darker. And with that, the story of Shiraneko Project Zero Chronicle comes to an end. If you enjoyed this recap and want to see more anime stories like this, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and hit the hype button.